Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Volume 1 of the orchestral music of Toshio Hosokowa. Now, when I listened to Volume 4, I said it would take me some time to get a sense of this composer's style and to see if there was more than what I heard in Volume 4, which was music of great atmosphere, actually, and full of evocative sounds, but extremely slow and extremely static and rather similar. Well, this is more of the same. Let's be quite clear. This disc allegedly contains a concerti for horn and piano and cello. Each of them has evocative titles. Oh my goodness. The horn concerto is Moment of Blossoming. The piano concerto is Lotus under Moonlight, but then in parentheses, Homage à Mozart. Homage à Mozart, probably I should pronounce it. But I mean, does that help? Do any of these things help? No. And the cello concerto is just called Chant. But they're all the same. I mean, the stylistics are all the same. They all begin very, very quietly. He seems to have a thing for drones. I think in the other note, it said that everything that he writes has an E flat running through it. Well, these have to, I don't know if it's an E flat, but it stays there for a very, very, very long time before things get hopping. Well, they never really get hopping. The tempo is uniformly slow. It's very atmospheric and evocative, as I pointed out. Texture and sound things. Occasionally, bits of melody or tunes kind of pop up. Which is particularly good in the cello concerto because it is, after all, a melody instrument. And a lot of it's quite beautiful. It's not tonal in a traditional sense, but, like I said, it's kind of like a mix of Chelsea and Takemitsu, if you can imagine such a thing. Chelsea was the one-note guy, the guy who focused on one single note and then sort of did pitch bending and different types of vibrato and trill things with it. Well, there's a lot of that here. And then there's a lot of just watery, vaporous, impressionistic kind of sounds, a la Takemitsu. And the titles do that too. The titles tell you absolutely nothing about what these pieces are going to sound like. Why? Because each one sounds very much like the other. So the titles don't matter. I mean, I understand that these works reflect the composer's return to his Japanese roots. And so obviously things like Moment of Blossoming and Lotus under Moonlight and all that stuff, that's kind of Japanese imagery. But I mean, he might as well have called, the horn concerto Shrimp Tempura and the piano concerto Chicken Teriyaki and the cello concerto Sushi. That would be just as Japanese, and it would make just as much sense given what you hear. So whatever imagery this must have meant for the composer, he's not helping us, the listener, to try and figure out what he had in mind. And as I said, particularly when it sounds like one piece of music that he just cut into segments and said, horn, piano, cello. Each work rises to a couple of gradual climaxes and then ebbs away. And I enjoyed it. They're fun to listen to. I wouldn't play all three of them at once, as I initially did. I would take them one at a time so you can appreciate them individually. The writing for the solo instruments is often quite evocative, and they're very, very well performed here. This is with the Royal Scottish National Orchestra under Märkl on Naxos, with Stefan Dohr, French horn, Momo Kodama, piano, and Anssi Karttunen, cello, Karttunen, whatever you do it, Finnish, I don't know. He's the cellist. They're very adept. They play with great commitment. I think that they understand the music and maybe even enjoy it. And the performances are extremely well recorded by Naxos. So I think as a disc, this is wholly successful. I mean, if I were Hosokowa, I would be pretty happy with it. But the style is very limited. Like so many contemporary composers who feel this desperate need to invent their own language, more often than not, that language is defined negatively. In other words, it's not going to be tonal. It's not going to have rhythm. It's not going to have fast tempos. It's a selection of musical elements where you kind of wish that he either selected more of them or had a more positive view of what he could include. But it's good. You may like it more than I did. But keep on listening regardless, and take care.